Ireland's breathtaking seaside setting and super fast layout making one of MotoGP's blue ribbon events and one of the must-see races on the World Championship calendar. A tourist hotspot welcoming over 3.5 million visitors a year. There's been racing in this part of Australia for nearly a century. But who will be waltzing to the win in 2025? It's time to race in MotoGP. Welcome back to Phillip Island. Good afternoon and welcome back to the Australian Grand Prix in 2025. Already so far this season we have seen Marc Marquez wrap up his 7th MotoGP World Championship, his first since 2019. Sadly though, the 93 missing from the Australian Grand Prix and for the foreseeable future after a shoulder injury sustained in Mandalika last time out. Jose Antonio Rueda, of course, in that Indonesian Grand Prix, clinching the Moto2 World Championship. 2 out of 3 done and dusted in 2025, but one is getting very tasty, very spicy indeed, isn't it? The Moto2 World Championship still all to play for, with 4 rounds remaining. 100 points still up for grabs. Just 9 now covering our top 2. Series leader Manu Gonzalez, who had the heartbreak last time out in Mandalika of a post-race disqualification for a technical infringement. No points for Gonzalez, while his chief championship rival Diogo Moreira was utterly magnificent in Mandalika, taking the victory from pole position. And what a win, what a decisive moment in the season that could be as far as Gonzalez and Moreira are concerned. Moreira then now just 9 points adrift in the championship. It wasn't already set up, poised perfectly with 4 rounds remaining. Well, this one's going to be spicy as well. Moreira on the front of the grid, pole position in successive races for the Brazilian star, the rising star from Sao Paulo. It's already been a fantastic week here down under for Moreira. Confirmation finally this has been coming, and he's moving to the LCR Honda MotoGP squad in 2026 alongside Johan Zarco. A front row which also features Senna Aegis, the home crowd hero, just a second front row start in 47 Grand Prix for the 20-year-old Sydney sider, and it is Manu Gonzalez on that heavyweight front row. The top 2 in the World Championship, first and third respectively on the grid. Aaron Canet with Gonzalez's disqualification last time out, coming back into title contention. He's only 33 points. At the moment, the momentum feels like it's very much with Moreira. 23 laps in Moto2 in this Australian Grand Prix, coming up in about 10 minutes time in the company of Matt Burt. Lewis will be the commentary box, Jack Appleyard down in pit lane. Well, this World Championship is coming to the ball very, very nicely, Lewis, after Gonzalez's disqualification last time out in Mandalika. 9 points, splitting the top 2 in the standings. They're both on the front row. Senna Aegis with nothing to lose in terms of the championship, fighting for a home victory from second on the grid. This one should be an absolute belter.
Cannot wait for this one. The qualifying session yesterday was extraordinary. You could write a book about Q2 yesterday. The title contenders all had their various stories, with Diogo Moreira breaking lap records seemingly for fun. And Gonzalez recovering from a pair of crashes on Friday, including a fast one at the Hayes Shed in FP1 to take felt like an unlikely front row start. And Aaron Canet had a crash at the start of Q2, was lucky to get back out on track at all. Get out with one more lap at the end of the session and salvaged 8th place. So all 3 title contenders up the sharp end with plenty of other potential podium finishes in amongst it. The front row, as you say, a heavyweight front row with the 2 title front runners sandwiching the home favourite Senna Aegis, and it will be lost on nobody, of course, that Aegis is the teammate to points leader Manu Gonzalez.
Second row ain't half bad as well. Jake Dixon 5th in the World Championship, a multiple Moto2 winner himself, going from 4th place on the grid alongside 2 real hot young chargers in Danny Holgado 5th on the grid and David Alonso 6th. There's the special message from Manu Gonzalez to his sideline Line of our intact Moto3 colleague, David Munoz, of course, sadly missing out for the remainder of the season, having suffered a broken femur last time out in Mandalika. So Gonzalez really has to stop the recent rot, doesn't he? No podium since his third place at the Balaton Park in Hungary. In that sequence, Moreira beat him in Hungary, third in Japan when Gonzalez was fifth, and then really jumping all over the Spaniard after a disqualification in Mandalika. Diogo Moreira winning over in Indonesia to pile up the fresh one at the top of the championship. There has never been an Aussie that's won a Moto2 Grand Prix at home. There's never been an Australian won an Australian Grand Prix in any intermediate world championship category. Moto2 all 250s. It's today the day that Senna Aegis writes his name in the history books.
Remember a year ago when he came through to a podium finish and had extraordinary late race pace. No question on Friday, his superior rhythm over longer runs in practice was that of Senna Aegis. Although we have said that already this season. Think back to the Sachsenring when he looked very good in practice. Barcelona 2, and it never quite materialised in the Grand Prix. But he will be highly motivated this afternoon. He has no real thoughts of the World Championship, although I'm sure the intact GP squad will be very keen for Senna to beat Diogo Moreira.
It's super relaxed, doesn't he, on fourth place on the grid. 29-year-old Jake Dixon, World Superbike bound, just looking to finish this Australian Grand Prix. I'd imagine it's Dixon. He crashed out of second in 2023 and dislocated his right shoulder in those really appalling conditions, and he crashed on the first lap here last year at turn 2. He does have a podium.
We came off the air, we all thought Aaron Canet was out of title contention. The post-race disqualification changed that. Let's head to the front row and hear from the home favourite, Senna Aegis, talking to Jack.
Senna, don't need me to tell you this is a big one on the front row of the grid for the home Grand Prix. How are you feeling ahead of it?
Yeah, feeling good. Yeah, just can't wait to get stuck in. You know, great weekend, great qualifying. Here on the front row in front of the home crowds, it's good for the race today. Yeah, let's see this wind direction. It will make for interesting racing, and conditions are not like Friday, so we have to discover it out there, and I'll give my all.
All the best.
Thanks.
47th Grand Prix start for Aegis, just his second front row. Thanks to Senna for talking to Jack on the grid in what is a pretty high tense atmosphere, high pressure atmosphere down on his home grid. Third in the Grand Prix last year, a brilliant recovery from 13th, made him the first Aussie to podium at Phillip in his home Grand Prix. Anthony West was second in the 250cc race all the way back in 2003. Well, we just saw him looking very relaxed on the grid. Surely he's going to be a big victory contender in this Aussie Grand Prix. It's the Brit Jake Dixon from fourth. He's with Jack.
Yeah, big smile on his face as ever. Jake, looking at the lap times, everybody, it feels like this one will be pretty tight out there. Ready to get stuck in?
Big smile on my face because I'm just staring at you. So, yeah, fantastic. You know, when you interview me, I just feel so good about myself. No, honestly, it's going to be a big group. It's windy. Yeah, there's a lot of riders that have similar lap times. Just get stuck in and see what we can do.
Hopefully got that big smile at the end of it. Good luck.
Exactly, thank you.
Yeah, Jake will be hoping he has a post-race appointment with Jack, won't he, in about 23 laps time around this Phillip Island circuit. Two Aspar teammates alongside each other on that second row of the grid. Already winners in their rookie season in Moto2. We have, of course, Danny Holgado and David Alonso, the outgoing Moto3 world champion. Now that he's under the cosh, he's under the pressure at the moment at the top of the world championship. Manu Gonzalez on the front row with Jack.
Manu, obviously the championship picture very different now to 2 weeks ago. Does that change the approach going into this?
It has not changed. I think we have to go to take the win. It's not the best race for us in terms of confidence with the bike. I'm not feeling incredible like the past races, but we are here, we are in the fight, so we will fight as hard as we can. The motivation is high, so we need to push all we have, and let's see what we can do.
Good luck.
Two Friday crashes at turn 8 and turn 4 aren't going to install too much confidence, are they, in a rider around Phillip Island? Thanks, Jack. Thanks to Manu Gonzalez. Always makes time for us, doesn't he, down on the grid. No podium, though, in the last 4, winless in the last 9 since Mugello. You do feel that Gonzalez needs a big result very quickly with this pressure continuing to mount from Moreira.
they finish where they start, which is the biggest of ifs in Moto2, with Moreira first, Gonzalez third, they will actually lead here in Australia, level on points at the top of the World Championship, which will be a mouth-watering situation with 3 Grand Prix to go. Tyre information, by the way, from Pirelli has dropped. Every rider in the field is on the same combination, that is soft front and medium rear.
We just saw him heading row 3 on the grid. 25-year-old Japanese rider Ayumu Sasaki, his best Moto2 qualifying in 7th place. Only the 4th time we've seen Sasaki-san start inside the top 10 in Moto2. In a decent run of form right now as well. There's Sasaki, points in 3 in a row for the first time in his Moto2 career. And Guevara, what a performance it was from the Spanish rider last time out over in Mandalika. A front row start in 3rd place and an excellent 2nd spot, promoted up 1 spot after the Gonzalez disqualification. Of course, it was Guevara who's had that brilliant front end save, but it all almost unravelled for him over in Indonesia. But it worked through though to make it back-to-back podiums for the first time in Moto2. Guevara, as you saw there, in the middle of row 5 in 14th spot.
Admitted he hasn't had the same level of confidence weekend he had in Indonesia. Mario Aggi, as you can see here on screen, is taking a 3-place group penalty. That was for getting in the way of Manu Gonzalez in qualifying. Let's go down to the grid and hear from Francesco Manzoni from the Italtrans team with Diogo Moreira on pole.
Yeah, he's been in fine form at the moment as Diogo. This championship battle is well and truly alive. How does that play into his tactics going into the race, Francesco?
I think from this race we don't have to do any tactics. He is confident to push since the beginning. He showed good pace on Friday. Yesterday, super fast lap. He's super confident. The windy situation is for all. He says on the out lap there's some wind that is disturbing him a lot of corners. But whatever, he should adapt on the condition. Who adapt fast will win the race.
Good luck.
I hope we us.
I imagine. Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's not biased at all there, is he? At all there, as we saw Manu Gonzalez looking relaxed with his bucket hat on. He needs a bucket load of points, doesn't he, if he's to try and increase this slender world championship lead over Diogo Moreira. Centre age, when you look at the lap-by-lap analysis in terms of race pace this weekend, Aegis looks really good, looks really strong. He's going to be a big contender in this 23-lapper. Just a bit of housekeeping to bring you, of course. Jake Dixon will be the lone representative from Elfmark Vidas Racing in this Grand Prix. Unfortunately, Phillip Salach having to withdraw, aggravating a long-standing shoulder injury he first picked up all the way back at Assen at the Dutch TT. So a speedy recovery to the Czech rider. Something missing from this Aussie Grand Prix.
23 lap line store for us. The 21 of Alonso Lopez starts down in P20. Winner of this Grand Prix back in 2022. Won it despite a long lap penalty. The kind of exploits that Marco Bezzecchi is looking to emulate or even better later on today. It's fair to say the form of the Speed RS Bosco scorers this weekend does not indicate that they're going to perform a repeat.
Absolutely shocking. No top 10 in qualifying in the last 6 for Lopez. And Chelison and Vietti has had an absolute nightmare down under 2 crashes. 20th on the grid is Vietti. His lowest qualifying since Aragon in 2021. Only 3 times in his entire Moto2 career has Vietti started lower on the grid. Well, this feels like a big one. At this stage of the season, they're all big races, aren't they, when you're fighting for the World Championship? That's exactly the position that Manu Gonzalez is in. Series leader going from the front row of the grid in 3rd place. Senna Aegis carrying the home hopes on his shoulders from just his 2nd front row start in Moto2, but it's the MotoGP bound Moreira who has been magic so far here this weekend in Australia. Diogo flying away from pole.
9 points between the top 2 in the World Championship. Both start from the front row in Australia. Diogo Moreira from a 6th pole of the season from Senna Aegis, a career best 2nd, and Manu Gonzalez, the under fire points leader, 3rd. Jake Dixon, Danny Holgado and David Alonso in a heavyweight row 2. Holgado came through Q1. Ayumu Sasaki took his best ever qualifying yesterday in 7th. Aaron Canet next to him despite a crash in Q2. Darren Binder's best qualifying since Argentina. 9th from Barry Baltasar Arenas and Tony Arbolino winning it 2 years ago. Adrian Huertas, Ethan Cavara and Colin Vaya together on row 5. Danny Munoz 16th ahead of Ivan Artola and Joe Roberts. Mario Aggi drops 3 places for slow riding in qualifying, which leaves him 19th ahead of 2022 winner Alonso Lopez. Zonta van den Gorbo 21st ahead of Alex Escrit, who has a long lap penalty to serve. Marcus Ramirez has been down twice this weekend, which is why he's down in 23rd. Jorge Navarro's next up in 24th, from Celestino Vietti 25th. His worst qualifying for 4 years, ahead of Yuki Kuni and Harrison Voigt, who is in MSI as an injury replacement.
Manu Gonzalez, the 23-year-old Spaniard, has led this Moto2 World Championship since the Spanish Grand Prix in Jerez. Only 2 Grand Prix so far this season where Gonzalez has not left as the World Championship leader. That is under some serious threat though now, isn't it? In particular from Polestar to Moreira. Senna Aegis, well, he's going to go for broke. He's got nothing to lose in terms of the championship already. Of course, a Grand Prix winner in 2025. The 3rd Australian of that British Grand Prix at Silverstone to win in Moto2 with Remy Gardner and Anthony West. Big day, you feel, in prospect here for Aegis. It's already been a big day. But John Kelso starting the Moto3 race from pole position. We won't give away any clues. Just a little bit of David on the circuit there. I think that's going to get blown away, thankfully, with this heavy wind that does continue to buffet Phillip Island. We're expecting it to die down quite considerably for the 27-lap MotoGP race coming up at 3 p.m. local time. This wind is still severe enough to give these Moto2 riders a bit of a headache, something to think about. Dirty is offline there as they came out of turn 11. You saw them were spraying out there on the marbles as Senna Aegis. Well, he won't need to be told that this is a wonderful opportunity to write his name in Aussie motorsport folklore, to write his name as an Australian Grand Prix winner here in Phillip Island. It's a very select few that have had that honour, and Aegis get the job done here over 23 laps as the field comes to the line. You see there the Australian flag on the top of the race control tower. Doesn't look like it's getting the pounding it was in the earlier Moto3 race. As shortly we're going to get the green flag clearing at the back, and then it's going to be the green light for racing in Moto2 here in Australia. Sasaki heading the 3rd row. It's best of a Moto2 star. What could Sasaki do ahead of Aaron Canet and Darren Binder? Your front row though features our top 2 in the World Championship. Moreira on pole position, Gonzalez in 3rd. The green flag then does clear at the back of the pack. Start. Right, Sam are racing in Moto2 here in Phillip Island. Senna Aegis has made the dream start from 2nd place here in front of his home crowd. Aegis will lead his home Grand Prix in Phillip Island on that long run down to the 3rd corner. Moreira not close enough to retaliate on the brakes into the 1st corner. So Senna Aegis has nailed the start. Dixon's wide though on the curve going towards the southern link. Holgado and Alonso will pick him off and fall from the grid.
Connect's getting boxed a little bit in that 2nd group further back. Holgado had an absolute shocker. The Aspar riders plummeted down the order through the 1st sector to 9th place.
2nd already between the top 3 and the pursuing pack, which is being led by Alonso. Sasaki's made a real good start from that 7th place. He's up into the top 5 already is Sasaki. There he is in 5th place. They're going through middle. He gets picked up though. Picked up by his good pal off the circuit, at least Jake Dixon.
Yeah, there's Albert Arenas coming through on Holgado. They're side by side. Holgado, a really poor start. So the field now strips out. Senna Aegis leads his home Grand Prix. Was finished on the podium here last year, but never led it. He leads Diogo Moreira. These 2 have been the pick of the field so far this weekend.
Aegis has only ever led 1 lap in his Grand Prix career. It was the most important one at the British Grand Prix at Silverstone when he led on the very last lap of that dramatic conclusion at Silverstone. Holgado looking to recover some lost early ground as he tries to squeeze himself back inside that top 10. Guevara's got through in his blue through Yamaha. Pramac teammate Arbolino. That's a battle down the order for 13th as we power them now through turn 12 to complete this first lap of 23. Bit of a head shake there from Moreira as he ran wide onto the curve. Aegis it is then the leads here in Australia. Nearly 2/10 clear of Moreira from pole.
Yeah, I think Moreira compromised himself coming to that final corner. He was a bit wide on the way in, but he closes up with that tailwind. Not as severe as it was earlier in the day. Down the main straight, closes in on back of Senna Aegis. Manuel Gonzalez, I think at this stage, will be just very happy to be on the tail of the top 2.
Harry Baltas had a shocking first lap. He started this Grand Prix in 10th, 4th in the World Championship as Baltas. The Belgians plummeted 12th place down the order. He came on line to complete lap 1 in a miserable 22nd.
Gonzalez closing in, so is Alonso. He's now in the battle. Look at Dixon and Canet having a battle. One current Mark VDS rider up against a future Mark VDS rider, and Dixon doing Canet's title challenge absolutely no favours.
I pose a question, how could Sasaki capitalise on a career best Moto2 start? Well, so far so good for Sasaki here in Australia. He looks brilliant there in a strong 5th place. Arbolino's going the wrong way in this Grand Prix. Joe Roberts has just pushed him out of the point scoring places, down in 15th spot. On board then with current world champion leader Manu Gonzalez. Will that be the state of play then when we head to Sepang in a week's time? Just look how tight it is between the top 3. Aegis, Rivera and Gonzalez now flicking it left through the fast left-hander over 11 and dragging himself back into early contention after a bit of a scrappy first couple of corners. Is Alonso in 4th.
I think many will envy Moreira in this situation at the moment. We know Moreira loves to fight fire with fire, but he is sandwiched between the two intact GP teammates at the moment. His title rival Gonzalez right behind him, Aegis right ahead. Fastest up in the Grand Prix to Alberto Arenas on the Grassini Calyx in 8th place.
Well, that just shows what some slipstream and a tailwind can do. Oh, moment there. Moment for both Moreira and Aegis. They both got sucked in with a tailwind into that third corner. They were both out wide. Aegis comes out the worst of it as he was on the paintwork on the outside of the third corner. Tries to tough it out with Moreira now on the exit of the southern loop. This is Moto2 at its very, very best. Gonzalez now attacking through Moreira into Stoner corner. And out of nowhere, there's a little bit of melee at the front. Alonso comes through Moreira into 3rd. This dragged Alonso and Sasaki right into this podium battle with the mistakes by both Aegis and Moreira in the Durham corner.
Wasn't by design, but it worked out perfectly for the intact squad. They're now 1 and 2, and they have a fight between themselves and Diogo Moreira. David Alonso, the 80 bike, now right in the thick of the action, up in 3rd place. Sasaki, Dixon, Canet now right to the tail of this leading group.
So easy to make that mistake. I mean, these Moto2 bikes, they're already not far shy of 300 kilometers an hour down that Gardner straight. And with that tailwind, well, they're probably nudging very, very close to 300 clicks in the braking zone for the Durham corner. So out of all the drama, Aegis is back at the front. They're Dynamo intact 1-2 now. Gonzalez then into 2nd place. Barry Baltus is trying to work his way back through the order. 19th he is now, having ended lap 1 down in 22nd spot.
Flying out now, Canet would lose points, although he's just passed Arenas. He'd be 44 off the lead, so the time it cost them, they were a second slower on that 3rd lap. Back into the 31s, Canet was in the 130s. Huertas is actually the fastest rider on track on that last lap on a 30.6. Less than 2 seconds, covers the top 10.
No significant progress forward from Chellaston, and V82's had a shocking weekend so far here in Australia. A couple of crashes for the Boscoscore rider, starting a lowly 25th. He's only picked up 3 spots early on into 22nd. Connect back through on Jake Dixon, 2 of the wise old heads. Some young chargers at the front of this Moto2 battle. Dixon trying to get back through and Connect on the brakes into the Miller corner, not quite close enough.
Dixon hasn't quite thrown the towel in yet on his World Championship challenge. He's 59 points off the lead of Gonzalez, so he has to take some big points out of him here to have any hope in the final 3 Grand Prix. 6th and 7th now, he and Canet are fighting for.
What was something 240 now, then got through by Colin Bayer. Arbolino's days going from bad to worse. Now he's been picked off by Zach Vanders onto Vanden Gorberg. Arbolino now in 17th place, having started in 12th. Of course, a former winner here in 2023. Moreira just letting Alonso know he's there as they drop down the hill into the bottom gear, turn 10.
No reason for Moreira to panic just yet, because the 2 intact boys aren't exactly pulling clear at the front of the race. Alonso looking pretty comfortable behind the top 2 in 3rd place. Of course, no one's going to want to push too hard too early in this Grand Prix. They'll be wary of some tyre drop late in the race, although we remind you, every rider is on the same combination.
Look at the slipstream of Moreira and Sasaki now with a 2-bike slipstream. Alonso and Moreira punching a massive gaping hole in the air ahead of him. Sasaki go through. Aegis once again makes a misjudgment with that tailwind dragging him into that Durham corner. This time around he's able to just about hold on to the lead. There's been a couple of big warnings there for Aegis. He's going to have to sort of adjust his braking markers. Is those just changing? As Sasaki, now that is brave, on the inside of Moreira, on the entry to Stoner corner. He set it all up with a good drive and exit out of the southern loop, but he's wide, a little bit wide. He was pushed out wide by Moreira's aggression. Back on the inside. Some Moto2 battle this early on here in Australia.
Yeah, Moreira's got to be careful. He can't let himself get shuffled too far back down the order, given where the 2 impact riders are, 1st and 2nd. So Moreira continues to hold 4th place. But Aegis not exactly looking error-free at the front of the race, but he does still have his teammate Manu Gonzalez right behind him. Ethan Guevara for contact has been told to drop one position, a position he'll have to give to Joe Roberts.
Where that's the 99 bikes having a cracking ride. You just see him there moving into your picture down the hill into turn 10. There's where it's at. He's got through an Olgado in there, little squabble for 9th and 10th. Fantastic at this stage of the Grand Prix. Certainly, as it looks like, being a potential top 6, maybe better podium contender. As Aegis then, the leader, powers out of turn 12. Just wonder whether he'll give himself a little bit more margin now in the braking zone for this Dylan corner. He's got a bit of leeway. Gonzalez not able to get really any close to him in the slipstream. Aegis this time around does just about, yeah, that's perfect. That's more like it. Now that is the optimal racing line this time around for the 81. He got that absolutely bang on.
He was trying to have a sniff at the inside of Alonso, but no way through the Brazilian up against the Colombian for 3rd and 4th place. Olgado still not really making any progress from his poor start. He's still battling with Huertas at the tail of the top 10.
Just listen to that triumph. Recently arranging sing in the hands of Alonso. Moreira then now is having a real good tussle here, isn't he, with Sasaki for 4th and 5th. It's been a while since we've seen Moreira picking a fight inside the top 3. Still in this lead group is Canet, Dixon, Reynas, Huertas. Some early recovery this by Bouts. I've been keeping a close eye on the number 7. 22nd he ended lap 1. He's now back in the points scoring places. Up into P14 is Bouts. 5.5 seconds back of this lead train.
The rider to watch the longer this race goes on might well be Alonso on the 80 in 3rd place. We know he's so good at getting his tyre to the end of the Grand Prix, having a little bit extra left at the end of the race. His former Aspar teammates now go side by side. Dixon versus Arenas for 8th and 7th and 8th. It's Dixon that comes out ahead. They're just behind Canet as the top 5 now threaten to get Canet in 6th place.
Yeah, there's a clear gap emerging, isn't there now, between that top quintet. Aegis has a handful of power to charge down the Gardner Straight. That's this rider on circuit at the moment, or a PB lap spin thrown in by the number 80 of Alonso, 1:30.691. That was still not as quick as Aegis ahead of him, and Moreira directly behind him. Saki's not being dropped at all, is he, in this lead group of 5? This has been by far the best we've seen from Sasaki in his short Moto2 career. This is like the Ima Sasaki of the Moto3 days.
It's the 9th in his Moto2 career. He's probably going to beat that if he gets dragged along with this leading group. Alonso had half a look at the inside into the first corner. Some debris or some wildlife. One of the 2 on the track there into Miller corner as Dixon now overtakes Canet. Canet's grip on the front of the race and the World Championship starting to slip.
And this trio keep tripping each other up. The Dixon, Canet, Arenas battle. It's just making sure the top 5 are a bit of a free run at the moment at the front of this Grand Prix. Through the ultra-fast right-hander of turn 8, that's where Gonzalez had a real high-speed get-off on Friday morning. That really did rattle the World Championship leaders' cage. Now over Lukey Heights we go. A spectacular part of this Phillip Island circuit. Down the hill then into 10. Moreira not close enough to attack Alonso on the brakes, but he certainly closes up inches closer to Alonso's rear tyre. Mindful of just trying to pick up some slipstream here, maybe attack the Colombian on the brakes into turn 1.
It's the beginning of a big lap this for Aegis. He's already opened the gap up to half a second through the first 3 sectors as we now have the face full of Aspar Calex. Moreira versus Alonso. Aegis did do a pass the best on a 30.4. Gonzalez now coming under some serious pressure. Alonso goes through, and Moreira now next behind his title rival.
The big little fella on Alonso, he's a right on pocket rocket, and with that slipstream he just eased through on Gonzalez, and that little exchange for second. Aegis with his biggest buffer so far here in Australia. Alonso a little bit scrappy on the exit of the southern loop. He's able to gather it all back up on board there now with Moreira. Is he going to fancy a move on the inside? Gonzalez into turn 4. He goes on to the inside. That's lovely. That is absolutely beautiful from Moreira. This has been a dreadful lap 8 of 23 for Gonzalez. He started it in P2. Alonso and Moreira pick him up in just 4 corners.
Well, when the summer break came in, Gonzalez was 60 points clear of Diogo Moreira. He's only beaten Moreira once since then, which wasn't a problem until he got disqualified in Indonesia. His concern now is if Moreira not only passes Alonso, but goes chasing off after Aegis.
Yeah, and Aegis for the first time in this Grand Prix his advantage over a second. Once again, Moreira just showing Alonso that front wheel downhill into 10. This is as tight as you get between the 2 title contenders. beautiful move. He knew as soon as he sees that inside line on the brakes into turn 4, there was absolutely nothing that Gonzalez could do. Textbook manoeuvre that into the Miller corner. As far as the pole starter goes, out of shot, and already over the line is your race leader, Aegis. 1.2 seconds he is clear now of Alonso. Aegis, a 1:30.4, keeping himself with the front out of all this melee behind him. It's half a second quicker than Alonso, of course, who had to make those moves through on both Gonzalez and Moreira.
Alonso then had the problem with the tailwind into turn 1, and he went slightly wide, which is not only going to cost him and that group further time to Aegis, another 2/10, but that puts Moreira right on top of him. And surely Gonzalez is in position now. We spoke about it before the race. He can't be defensive now. He's got to attack Moreira.
Yeah, this group just needs to settle down here now. We know that Alonso, Moreira, Gonzalez, they'll have the pace to try and hunt down Aegis here, but if they keep picking fights to each other, well, they're going to sort of put themselves in the foot, aren't they here? Aegis will not care one jot, will as he powers out of Siberia through the fast left-hander of 7. Now they're building up speed and momentum out through 8, left now over 9 through Lukey Heights. Dixon starting to close back in on Sasaki's rear tyre.
Only one person that Manu Gonzalez is following about beating in this Grand Prix, and it's the rider right ahead of him, Diogo Moreira. I think he'll be more than happy for Sarah Aegis to take a fairy tale home victory as long as Diogo Moreira doesn't. We are looking back now from the Brazilian, 10 versus 18, 9 points between them at the start of this Grand Prix. Moreira finishes third, Gonzalez fourth, will take a further 3 out of that.
Then now with Gonzalez through the 4th gear, over 200 kilometers an hour through that spellbinding turn 12. What a run that is, down onto the Gardner Straight. Yeah, with the tailwind, look, they are nudging over 300 kilometers an hour then on these Moto2 bikes. There is your race leader, Aegis. He's clearing off at the front of this Grand Prix. Aegis a 1:30.4. That's 2 successive 1:30.4s from Aegis right now. That was 6/10 ahead of Alonso. Really, really impressive speed in this early part of the Grand Prix for Aegis.
Like 3 of them actually for Aegis. He's got such a superior pace at the front of the race. Whilst this second group are busy watching each other, Moreira, I think he just favours that inside line. There's a little bit of a moment there for Gonzalez, just to show you how hard he's pushing. Of course, that tailwind into turn 1 into headwind when you break the Miller corner.
Dixon then now, they've got onto the rear tyre. Sasaki's been able to do nothing about the Japanese rider directly ahead of him. This has been the best by a long, long way. We've seen Saki in Moto2. Gary Baltus, he's the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Had he not made a right hash of the first lap, where would Baltus be in this race? A 1:30.721 from Baltus. Look at only Dixon and Aegis were faster than Alonso makes a right hash of turn 10, and that's allowed both Moreira and Gonzalez through.
He then settled on the downhill drop from Lukey Heights and will have known already before he even arrived at 10 that he wasn't going to make the apex anywhere near it. So Moreira now clear. So this is going to be interesting now on the next lap as Sasaki's now up behind Alonso. What kind of pace does Moreira have with nobody in front of him?
2.2 seconds now is Aegis' lead. He's just really got mid-30s for fun right now. Connects further down Baltus, the only other 2 rides out on circuit. They're in those 1:30s. That was so close to disaster, wasn't it, for David Alonso. Just running right out to the marbles. You saw how dirty it was offline at the very next corner on the warm-up lap as they went through turn 11. Now then Gonzalez right on the rear tyre on Moreira. Any chance for him to attack the Brazilian going into the winner corner? No, there's not. Finally, this move has been coming. Dixon shakes it up for a couple laps now. He does find a way through on Sasaki. Dixon sees his P5.
Gonzalez just staring at the rear tyre of his type of rival. He saw a lot of it in Indonesia. The entire Grand Prix, we were waiting for Gonzalez to really ignite. We were waiting for him to chase down Moreira. Chase never really came. It all proved academic when he was disqualified. But is he going to get his teeth stuck into Moreira this time? Surely, with Cadet fading now back to 8th place. This here on screen is your battle for the Moto2 World Championship.
Trying to regroup after that big mistake. Once ago is Alonso. Very little of his teammate Holgado as a front-running force in this Grand Prix after a poor start from the middle of the second row in 5th. Looking back then from Moreira. So huge at this stage of the season. Every point priceless. Every point so precious. In the slipstream goes Gonzalez. We're in the Gonzalez lane, aren't we, there briefly? That was so easy. Gonzalez then does find a way back through on Moreira. swing back in favour then of Gonzalez. The championship's 13 points would be the gap if you throw the flag now and head to Malaysia.
Moreira's not going to take that line down. That is just not his style. Alonso having a very good look at this now in 4th place as he regrouped from that error a lap and a half ago. Look how close Moreira is into Stoner corner. Miller coming up. Surely Moreira's going to have a go.
Yeah, he's not close enough. Not Dixon piles into the side of Alonso there as they break down into the Miller corner. Dixon wide on the paintwork there, as well as Jake Dixon. Having worked so hard to get 5th from Sasaki. Now drops back behind the Japanese rider, behind Alonso and behind Arenas. So all the hard work unravelled by Dixon, who goes into instant retaliation mode. That was awesome. On the inside of Arenas, going through into turn 7, just charging that a little bit harder. So riding around the outside of Dixon, through 8 and 9 goes Arenas.
Arenas almost found himself in that position by accident. Now he's got Dixon tight on the inside of him once again. Told you these two were former Aspar teammates. They weren't exactly mates during that time together in the red of Aspar.
No love lost between those two at all, is there? As already looks like Dixon's getting a bit of sliding on that rear provided tyres. He got on the gas coming out of turn 11. Long gone into the distance at the moment. Touring will be a fairy tale. Home victory goes ages. Now then, Gonzalez made this move on Moreira on the previous lap on the run down to the Durham corner. There's payback, and it's come instantly from Moreira, easing onto the inside line with the slipstream, and Moreira then back into 2nd.
There's that tailwind once again. It's almost a disadvantage to be at the front of a train in these kind of circumstances. We've seen that consecutive laps now. The rider that led this battle onto the home straight didn't lead at the other end of it. It's now Gonzalez who has to go on the attack again.
Aegis is just taking more and more time out of this chasing pack. He's just gone through the pitch there in the Miller corner, 3.7 seconds he is clear. Now, we've had some of our closest ever Moto2 battles in history around this Phillip Island circuit. Aegis, though, is doing a right number on the field, isn't he, at the moment? 3.7 seconds clear on Moreira and Gonzalez. Points at stake. Who's going to strike the big psychological blow, though, as well as we head to Malaysia next weekend between Moreira and Gonzalez?
It's a test of concentration as much as skill now for Senna Aegis at the front of the race, nearly 4 seconds clear, and these are tricky conditions with the wind buffeting you so easy as Alonso proved months ago to make a mistake. So it might feel like Senna Aegis is making this look rather easy, but still plenty of bridges to cross just yet.
Dixon charging into that Miller corner. Well, laps to go. Also see Alonso was out wide as well. Two are pretty close off the circuit, of course, former colleagues in the Aspar programme. Gonzalez looks like he's having a good long look at his pit board there as he charges down to the Durham corner, and that's the 3rd lap in a row then now. But on that run down with the slipstream and with the tailwind playing such a key factor this time around, it's 2-1 now in our favour of Gonzalez on that long run down to the Durham corner.
Features of Moreira's title challenge this season has been his tenacity. He never knows when he's beaten. Anytime he's passed, his immediate thought is to try and repass the earliest available opportunity. The earliest available opportunity is here into Miller corner, but Gonzalez good enough on the brakes. But Alonso, Sasaki, Arenas and Dixon dragging themselves back into play again.
Just showing at the back of the picture there, what a ride by Baltus. He's just picked up Huertas and Binder and got himself up into the top 10. He's done a lot of work. It's been a punishing first half of this Grand Prix for the Belgian, having dropped back to 22nd. But what a recovery by Baltus. He has had clearly pace that would have put him in this lead group, no doubt about it. He's still doing 130s, just like Senna Aegis and Alonso. Those trio, the only 3 in the 130s.
Dixon's aggression hasn't quite paid off for him so far. He's now back behind Arenas in 7th place. Canet is still just about in touch. He's in the back of the picture in 8th place, but we've not really seen any kind of aggression or forward momentum from Aaron Canet since that first couple of laps.
Gonzalez and Moreira are resigned to their fate. They know that they're not going to be winning this Australian Grand Prix following a late collapse from Aegis, but there's still so much at stake. Of course, they've got to contend with the likes of Alonso, Sasaki, Arenas, Dixon and Co behind them. This time around, Gonzalez is just about able to get the corner speed in the drive out of turn 12 to make sure that Moreira was able to snatch back that second on that run down to the Durham corner. Who's wide though, wide into the southern loop, and that's well, it's a free hit. Open goal, that wasn't it for Moreira. Having done all the hard work to defend that second place into turn 1. Gonzalez goes wide, but now it's coming back on the inside. Moreira going through Stoner corner. Wow, talk about two title rivals leaving all on the line for glory in 2025.
Still 3 more races to go after this, but this almost feels like a title shootout, doesn't it? Between Moreira and Gonzalez, but look at the queue behind them, including Arenas, who dives on the inside of Sasaki, the Brasini rider, who's come from 11th on the grid via Q1 yesterday. He might still take a podium.
This ain't no given that Moreira and Gonzalez are going to hang on to a podium here. They're coming to the phase of the Grand Prix late on where deteriorating grip from those Pirelli tyres is going to play a big factor as Canet shows his front wheel to Dixon as they start climbing up to the blind entry through Lukey Heights. Just a quick check on Aegis, you can see him in the top left-hand corner of your screen. Is now 5 seconds and a little bit more clear of this intense battle. What a battle it is for second place in this Grand Prix. It's a battle though, isn't it, for the world title as far as Moreira and Gonzalez are concerned.
So all in one camera shot. You had 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th. Holgado is at the back of this train after his poor start. Has Aaron Canet just been managing, just been saving tyre at the back of that train? I guess we'll find out the longer this race goes on. Alonso now at the inside of Gonzalez, and there is now a ride in between the two in the title chase.
It's taken until lap 15 for Aegis to drop into the 131s, and it was not by much. A 1:31 flat as Gonzalez is coming under some big pressure here, isn't he? From Alonso. We know how good Alonso is on worn rubber at the end of Grand Prix. Is Sasaki just as strong? Is the pace that a little bit too hard for him? Has he taken too much out of his rubber on that last lap? Sasaki, who went back down to 7th place, well, he was in the 32s. Was there a mistake? Was he giving a help again to the marbles? Just from a long way back comes Holgado. Lovely on the inside of Canet through the Miller corner. That's pushed Holgado up into P8.
It's been the tail of this group for the entire Grand Prix. Just hasn't been able to make any progress through the Grand Prix. If he is saving, he's probably leaving it a little too late. So Moreira then through the hay shed. This was where Manu Gonzalez had the first of 2 big crashes on Friday. It has been a dramatic old weekend for Manu Gonzalez, but there is still the opportunity to take points out of Diogo Moreira if you can just pass the Brazilian up ahead.
Aegis at the British Grand Prix. How many times has this move been made by Dixon and Arenas? I think that's going to be at least the 3rd or 4th time that 96 has passed his way through on 75, going through turn 10. Aegis led in the last sector on the last lap of the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. This has been a completely different experience for the Aussie. Oh, big head shake there for Alonso as he was on the gas coming out of turn 12. That's going to cost him key time as he will just have to roll the throttle. Gonzalez fighting back into 2nd place. What a battle this is between the 2 title contenders. He ran hot mode down into the Durham corner, running wide on that sweep towards the Southern Loop. Moreira now back into 2nd.
Yeah, this isn't quite for all the marbles. We still have 3 more races to go after this, but there is so much at stake. As you say, it's not just championship points, it's bragging rights, it's ego, it's psychological between the top 2 in the World Championship, and it's fair to say that Diogo Moreira is in the head a little bit of Manu Gonzalez and Aaron Canet. Gonzalez does not want to be beaten by the Brazilian again head-to-head.
Gonzalez has got some serious worries here from Alonso. He's had a couple of big moments down into turn 10 on the exit of turn 12 on the last lap. But Alonso really is starting to get back into his groove.
Baltus is the fastest rider on track here. He's now caught this train, and is he going to motor through it? Baltus did a 30.6 on the last lap, 3/10 quicker even than Aegis is going. So the Fantic rider, who we might have discarded a bit early from this title battle, he's now rampaging through to the podium.
Yes, spotted him all the way through this Grand Prix, marauding his way back into contention outside the top 20 on a dismal first lap. Baltus, I suppose the only sort of question mark hanging over the number 7 is just how much rubber, how much tyre has he had to use to get himself back into this podium battle.
Remember back in Mazzano, he was the best in the business, wasn't he, managing his tyre to the end of the Grand Prix. He's passed Aaron Canet for 9th on this lap. We have 6 more laps to go for him to make further progress as Alonso once again sticks his nose where Intact will feel it doesn't belong, between the title chases again.
I just said, didn't I? Gonzalez will be having a big headache coming here from Alonso, and that means that the World Championship, it's only going to be 2 points in favour of the Spaniard going to Sepang, and it's not a given here. But Gonzalez is going to stay in that 4th place. Of course, he still feels like there's plenty left in the locker for him to try and get back through on Moreira and Alonso. But now Jake Dixon is coming back into contention. Been a good late charge this as well by Holgado. He touched it out on the brakes into the Miller corner, side by side, then now with Arenas. He has made that move stick now as they run towards Siberia. Holgado's clawed his way back into the top 6.
Gonzalez will be thinking about that with Alonso. Hey, if you're going to beat me, at least make sure you beat Moreira too. The Colombian going after his fellow American at the moment, the second and third. Of course, these three, the three at the front of this second group, were battling for victory on the final lap in Hungary, where Alonso won that particular tussle.
He's been so darn good, so dominant. It's a shame we really haven't seen so much of our runaway race leader, Senna Aegis. Of course, we're focusing so much on this intense title tussle between Gonzalez and Moreira. They all power now through this final corner. A slightly wider line now, a more sweeping line. That was Moreira, of course, going to LCR Honda in 2026 in MotoGP. What a move that is for the Brazilian. Will it be a move he'll make as the Moto2 World Champion? Here comes Alonso. Well, we know how good Alonso is as Dixon also comes through on Gonzalez. This championship picture is changing every lap here. It seems like it's changing every corner at the moment in Phillip Island. Alonso knocks Moreira back to third, and now Gonzalez is in fifth, and now coming under real big pressure from the charging Holgado. It's all unravelling here. Big start for Gonzalez.
His World Championship lead is now on wafer-thin ice. Holgado is surely going to have a crack on the 27. He's having one right now.
Wow,
Gonzalez gets beaten up big time into Miller corner. More points disappearing out of the door.
He's got to get his elbows out here. He's got to sharpen his knees and elbows, hasn't he, Gonzalez? He has been beaten up and bullied over the last lap and a half here in Phillip Island, hasn't he? Alonso then now cruising ahead of Moreira. 3 points it would be. Tantalisingly close between Moreira and Gonzalez at the top of the championship. Are we starting to rule Canet and Baltas out of championship contention? Baltas has got through on Sasaki now, up into 8.
As Gonzalez ran out of tyres, he looked like he's under pressure there behind. As now Baltas comes through on helmet to Reynolds. Reynolds will now have the inside line for turn 11. He's not going to let Baltas around the outside of him there. But both of these riders could add further misery to Manu Gonzalez yet.
I'd love to know what happened to Baltas on that first lap, because without a first lap nightmare, without any question, he needed maybe been able to have offered something for Aegis. What a moment that was once again. We've seen that a couple of times. That nervous, that twitchy, that Calyx chassis underneath Alonso as he got the power on going through 12. Holgado's got some serious late race pace here. Now he's through on Dixon, and we could have 2 Aspar bikes on the podium very, very quickly. Holgado's late pace has been astonishing.
Well, he's another rider who made a porridge at the start and dropped back down the order, but he's making up for lost time now. So Gonzalez now 6th with Baltas and Arenas right behind him. Sasaki Canet have dropped away from this group, so that might be the extent of the damage for Gonzalez. So once again, if you look at this group, 7 riders all in your camera shot. Who of them will stand on the podium?
Yeah, this has been an epic battle, hasn't it? One of the best battles we've seen for podium places, and there's been a few of them. There's been plenty of them already so far in Moto2 2025. 6 seconds clear now at the front of this Grand Prix is Aegis. He can almost smell that race-winning Prosecco. He can almost see himself now picking up the trophy. What a moment it could be for Aegis in 3.5 laps time. This massive train, though, fighting for second, drops down into turn 10. Alonso, Moreira, Holgado, Dixon. Gonzalez, a bit of tricks there for Dixon as he went full lean angle, cranked over, going through 10.
So if Moreira could pass Alonso, he would take the World Championship lead. If Gonzalez slips to the back of this group, with Moreira still in third, he would just about hold on to the World Championship lead by 1 point. Such fine margins, and Baltas now all over the back of Gonzalez. Looks like a matter of time here.
Baltas got great corner speed going through 12. There's nothing that Gonzalez can do. Just tries to top it out on the brakes. That is brilliant. Fair play to Gonzalez, because he must have sensed, he would have heard that Baltas now. Oh, God, almost goes into the back of Moreira. Well, that could have been a huge, huge moment for the World Championship. How tight was that? As Holgado going through the suddenly, he must have felt he was going to tag the 10.
And in the end, he released Gonzalez into an extra point. Moreira, best place viewed to be, is the front of this group. That's the safest place. Is he going to attack Alonso? Surely he will at some point, but he's too far back. Gonzalez on the inside, perhaps defending from Holgado more than attacking Dixon.
Dixon once again had a big moment on the front as he grabbed a handful of braking through the middle corner. Dixon is working so hard. It looks like out of anybody in this lead group as Dixon is having to muscle and wrestle around that Bosca scorer more than anybody else in this battle for second place. It has been a barnstorm, hasn't it, here in Phillip Island. Senna Aegis in the top left-hand corner of your screens in a complete race of his own. What a battle this is still for second. Who is going to come out the best of this one? Once again, Holgado. It's heart in the mouth. Heart in the mouth. Your heart skips beat every time you see Holgado breaking behind Gonzalez or Moreira.
Well, it's clear the pace he's got if he can just make the clean moves, but Alonso with an absolute siege behind him with 6 riders queued up, but still the Colombian is hanging on to that second place. There are 2 more laps to go, and in which we could have another 10 of these. This is brilliant stuff in this battle for second place.
Where will the championship picture sit as we head to Sepang? Holgado has got through then on Gonzalez. And it changes once again. What can he do about attacking Gonzalez? Is there going to be a good overtaking opportunity coming up very, very shortly on the brakes into the Miller corner? That pressure still being thrown all on the shoulders of Alonso. Bautas with great corner speed. Look how defensive Gonzalez goes. He's going a long, long way around. That's going to work out for Bautas. But he knows, doesn't he, Gonzalez, how strong Bautas is. Just look how tight and defensive Gonzalez went through for.
Well, that feels like the story of his race, doesn't it? He's being defensive. He's not attacking in this battle. Every time we see Gonzalez, apart from that battle with Moreira early on, he's defending from people. He's not in a position with such a slim World Championship lead where he can be defensive.
Connects nowhere. He's back in 9th place. Sasaki hasn't been top 5 for so much of this Grand Prix. We thought he was suffering with grip issues. He is. He's been in the 32s, stuck in the 32s for quite some time. Still on course though for a top 10. Joe Roberts just outside the top 10 and just past Fuertes. Well, who is going to win out in this battle for second? Your race winner, barring any late disasters, will surely be Senna Aegis. What a performance, what a day. Seconds for the Australian, a 20-year-old from Sydney. Well, he's going to be very, very soon. He's on the last lap right now, the biggest lap of his career as Senna Aegis leads the Australian Grand Prix.
Moreira doesn't look close enough to Alonso, but Bautas surely is on Manu Gonzalez. But Gonzalez once again brave enough into dual corner to hold on to that 6th place. The World Championship lead hanging by a thread as Moreira attacks Alonso.
The problem is he goes so defensive on the brakes into doing does Gonzalez. It compromises all of his exit speed and the momentum on that run. Suddenly, look how close Bautas almost fanted riding around the outside of Gonzalez as they swept into turn 2. That was the differential between the two in terms of speed. Alonso, how much risk then will Moreira take? Again, going super defensive into 4 goes Gonzalez.
Bautas be able to slipstream into the line. We know how good his corner speed is. Can he beat him on the run out of the final corner? Because Gonzalez is not going to make any further progress from here. It's all about defending 6th place.
Bautas is visibly so much quicker than Gonzalez. Fair play, you have to doff your cap to Gonzalez. He's doing a great rear guard action here to hold the Belgian at bay. For how much longer can he do? Well, Bautas is going around the outside, on the run to Luki. Massive, massive difference there. Bautas has just been so much faster. It looks like Alonso is going to fend off Moreira.
I don't know.
Well, massive points at stake in the championship. Senna Aegis now attacks through turn 12. Senna Aegis through the final corner. It looks like Alonso will hold on to 2nd place. Senna Aegis though crosses the line. It is Aussie for the Australian here in his home Grand Prix. Aegis takes the victory by 3.6 seconds. At one stage later on, he was 6 seconds clear of David Alonso. Alonso then does just about fend off Moreira on a drag race to the finish line. Moreira missing out on 2nd and 4 hugely important World Championship points. Points that would have put him actually at the top of the World Championship, going to Sepang by just 0.03 of a second. Holgado is 4th, Dixon 5th. Bautas then, what a recovery, 22nd to 6th for the Belgian. And nothing afoot, taking away a couple of really important points in the Championship of Gonzalez. 3 to go. 2 points now between Gonzalez and Moreira. And what a ride. Take a bow. Senna Aegis becomes the first Australian to win his home Grand Prix in Moto2. The first Australian in Australian Grand Prix history to win an intermediate World Championship battle here in 250s and in Moto2. And he made it look so easy. A couple of early scares when he went right into the Dewan corner. But this circuit has corners named after Australian icons, Aussie legends, Wayne Gardner, Mick Doohan, Casey Stoner and Jack Miller. Well, they'll all be proud of that incredible performance by Senna Aegis. His 2nd Moto2 victory, and this one will feel better than Silverstone surely, as he wins in front of his home crowd here in Phillip Island. A day Aegis will never forget. A day for the Aegis.
A win that another famous Senna would have very happily claimed as one of his own on 4 wheels, but it's Senna Aegis on 2 wheels who takes Moto2 victory today. A glorious day for the intact team. Even if Manu Gonzalez lost crucial points, he does still lead the championship. Both victory for Senna Aegis. Tom Lutey's giving his reaction to Jack.
Yeah, what a remarkable performance. Tom Senna has just won his home Grand Prix. Just firstly, what a...
And so he fought hard. He was maybe a little bit unlucky in the fight or towards the end, but I'm proud of him to be there again.
Great job, Tom.
Thank you.
No podium in the last 5 Grand Prix, no win in 10 now for Gonzalez. That is scarcely World Championship winning form, isn't it, as far as the Spaniard goes? Well, this is going to be an immensely popular victory. There is nothing that comes close. There is nothing quite like the feeling of winning your home Grand Prix. And that is the sweetest of taste, the sweetest of sensations that is coming the way of Sydney's Senna Aegis. It was just supreme. At one stage later on, he was over 6 seconds clear of the field. Alonso then does second place. He had to work very, very hard for that second. But Moreira started this Australian Grand Prix 9 adrift of Gonzalez. He takes another 7 points out of the Spaniard. And as we head 2 points the gap at the top of the championship.
Shake of the head there from Manu Gonzalez, whether that's pain or disappointment or a combination of the two. Feels like the favourite now for the Moto2 World Championship, even if he's 2 points adrift. It's a straight shootout now between the top 2 in the World Championship. Connect didn't lose too much in the end. He finished just 2 places, 2 points behind Manu Gonzalez, but with the races ticking away, 35 points is surely too far back for him to still win the World Championship. Baltus and Dixon now surely also out of contention. Congratulations to David Alonso, who had a posse of riders behind him for most of that Grand Prix. He held them all at bay to take his first Moto2 podium since his victory in Hungary.
David don't defend, does he? It was attack, attack, attack up from Alonso. This, though, was just absolutely phenomenal here in Phillip Island. That podium here 12 months ago, 3rd place would have felt good. This is going to feel out of this world now for the 20-year-old. Starting on the front row for just the 2nd time in 47. As mentioned at the start of the race, if you looked closely at the lap-by-lap analysis of Aegis, he was always marked down as one of the favourites. His race pace throughout the weekend has been top draw, it has been next level. You just can't celebrate once again. Kind of contrasting emotions, mixed emotions inside the German team's garage as Aegis takes the spoils. And Manu Gonzalez left to ponder what might have been a 7th place for Gonzalez. That's actually his worst finish since a 9th in Aragon. So form disappearing for Gonzalez at the worst possible time. Momentum, it's a wonderful thing, isn't it, in Grand Prix motorcycle racing, and with now 3 successive podiums, including a 3rd in Bategi, a win in Mandalika, and now a 3rd here in Australia. It's been some flyway tour so far for Moreira, but the momentum well and truly with the Brazilian.
3 rounds to go. We've got a Sepang next time out, and then of course we've got in Portimao and Valencia. There's Senna's father there, handing the Australian flag, which has never been on the top of a Moto2 podium before here in Phillip Island. Today, though, Senna, is your day.
There's his dad, Jono. He'll be jumping for joy. Sure, he's got a sore throat and a few gnawed fingernails right now as Jono ages, because he'll be so proud of his boy. Look at this move. Look at that. It was so obvious late on that Baltus's pace was far, far superior. At one stage, he was the fastest rider on circuit, wasn't he? Baltus just was 22nd on that one. He finished not even 2 seconds off the podium. A story of what might have been as far as the Belgians concerned. Diogo Moreira, pole position to the podium here in Phillip Island. 2 points to gap now at the top of the championship. He's with Jack.
Hugo, that feels like a hugely important podium. Now only 2 points in the World Championship. You gave everything in that fight with Manu. Psychologically, how important do you think it is to have beaten him today?
Yeah, it was a difficult race, a lot of windy. So it was difficult to put the pace on the track, but yeah, very happy. We make a very good weekend, so yeah, we need to keep like this. Let's see, but yeah, very happy.
Great job, well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was a great job. Those tricky, windy conditions, so easy to make a mistake. Diogo Moreira, well, we didn't really see any obvious signs of mistakes, did we, in that exciting 23-lap Australian Grand Prix in Moto2. And this is very much game on. The MotoGP in 2026 alongside Johan Zarco in the Premier Class at LCR Honda. Could well be heading to the Premier Class, mixing it with the very best. Marquez, Jorge Martin and co, the Moto2 world champion. David Alonso, it's a third podium finish of what's been an impressive rookie season for our former Moto3 world champion. Another absolutely top-notch ride from the Colombian. Second here in Australia, and he's with Jack.
What a brilliant fight that was to get onto the podium. Have you ever to work harder for a second place?
Honestly, today I need to say sorry to all the fans that were in the race, because I finished the race so tired that I couldn't even say hello to the people because my arm is completely dead. So sorry for the people that I cannot say hello to them. But well, I think it's one of my best starts of the year. I really make a good start, and then I was trying to be there on the top. This race was the hardest one about physical condition. With the wind, you need to fight a lot with the bike, and I was dead. And when Senna goes, I just stay on the group to try to get energy again. And on the last 5 laps, I have cleared that I need to go in front. This teaches me a lot for the future to lead a race. Not leading because I was second, but without anyone in front. And on the last lap, I just put all in and try to make this happen. Today, the birthday of my cousin, Dana, muchas felicidades. Te quiero, prima. Let's keep doing like today, like working, but not expecting anything.
Top ride, well done.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Yeah, another top ride from a top talent, David Alonso, with the knowledge and experience of his rookie season under his belt. Well, he'd be a nailed-on title contender, isn't he, you think, in 2026. What a fight he was, what a battle it was that raced throughout that 23 laps. A long, long way behind Senna Aegis, who is going to be wearing the biggest smile right now in the whole of Australia, I'm sure, as Manu Gonzalez. That's a nice touch. Gonzalez putting behind his own personal disappointment of a rather lonely and underwhelming 7th place for the World Championship. And we have to say, still a World Championship leader. Gonzalez then comes to congratulate his teammate Senna Aegis, but here he is. Well, last year when he took a podium here in front of his home crowd, it was special, but this will top the lot. Your Australian Grand Prix winner, it's the Aussie Senna Aegis with Jack.
Senna, you've just won the Australian Grand Prix. Can you put into words how much this moment means?
It's everything. You know, last year we set the benchmark and everyone's been saying all weekend, are we going to see it again? And I knew since Friday that I felt amazing this weekend, and my aim was a victory, and I can't believe I got it done. I got a good start and I went for it. I've used all the time in the middle of the race to break away, and the long race, a new experience, and yeah, I'm just over the moon, and I've got no words. Yeah, just like to thank everybody in my corner over here. They mean the world to me, and everybody's doing their best to help me succeed, and I'm finally starting to show off. So I'm just really proud of myself and the whole team for this one, and how good to do it at home.
Huge congratulations.
Thank you so much.
He should be very proud of himself, shouldn't he? Senna Aegis. I think the whole of Australian motorsport fans, the whole Australian motorsport community are going to be very proud of Senna Aegis' performance here over 23 laps in Phillip Island. As he said, right from Friday, he's felt like he had the potential. Well, he could be fed up with people asking him, are you going to go a couple of places better than third last year? But he did. Second on Friday afternoon, second on the grid, but the most important part of the weekend. When you take the checker flag, it was P1 for ages, the first ever Australian to win a Moto2 race at home. And this was that incredible feeling. What a moment that he's never going to forget, a moment that he's worked so many years for as he crosses the line, victorious here in Victoria. What a moment for Senna Ages, and what a moment for the team. Lucci, the rider coach and mentor inside that garage. The Aegis connections, the Aegis family looking on. He's done it. He has done the business in emphatic fashion, in emphatic style. As he mentioned, he decided to push hard. Was it lap 15 before he was even in the 131s? Mid-race burst where he thought, you know what, I've got an advantage here. Let's just try and push while I've got the grip. Build a lead where nobody's got a chance of catching me. Tactically, it was spot on. It was just brilliant performance. A very international feel as well to that Moto2 podium. An Aussie leading home, a Colombian leading home, a Brazilian. Candidate outside of Senna Ages for rider of the day, Barry Baltus. Look at that, 22nd he was at the end of that first. And I'd love to know, we've got a replay maybe of what happened to Baltus on the opening lap, losing 12 places on lap 1, fighting his way through to 6th place. He wasn't even 2 seconds behind the podium positions. Stunning recovery by Baltus.
I do recall seeing 1 or 2 riders going wide and off the other side of the curve at turn 1 at the start while I was watching Connect further back. One of those might well have been Barry Baltus. We'll, as you say, hopefully catch the clips of that pretty shortly. Jürgen Ling onto the podium on behalf of Intact GP. It's a sweet day in many respects, as we say, for them. He will be focusing on the positives for sure. Third place, third podium in a row for Diogo Moreira. MotoGP bound and potentially heading there at the Moto2 World Champion. Just 2 points now behind Manu Gonzalez. David Alonso, well, he's got the energy now to wave to the fans, but they will all be cheering this man, Senna Ages. Drink it in. The only thing I could drink it in over the course of today, winner of the Australian Motorcycle Grand Prix. There'll be no better feeling than that if you're an Aussie. The event sponsored by the title sponsors, or certainly one of the title sponsors of the Intact GP squad. Things, I guess, from their point of view, are just meant to be. Well, I asked the question earlier on, is this now the Moto2 title favourite? Many will feel so. Diogo Moreira, just 2 points behind now. There's 247. Moreira, 245 points. Second place for David Alonso. He's been good, he's been extraordinary in Moto2 this season. Surely that's going to be his base level next season. But today is the day that Senna Ages conquered Phillip Island. Podium finisher last year, winner here as he gets to hear the Australian national anthem at home.
First time at Phillip Island in Moto2 history. Advance Australia Fair bellows out around this magnificent close circuit. Senna Ages now pops the race-winning Prosecco. A that he is never ever going to forget. Big day in terms of the championship potentially as well. Well, of course we are. Has to be a shoey, doesn't it? Go on, Senna trying to whip the home fans up into a bit of a frenzy here. He's going to get a size 10 Phillip the second now. There's Father Jono looking on. Yeah, he's hanging on the ground, and there you go. Well, that is going to taste very, very nice, isn't it? Jürgen Ling, the team manager's going, yeah, come on, I want some as well. Big sip coming in for Jürgen Ling. Let's see the team owner take a big guzzle. There you go. Such a great character is Jürgen. I'm not too sure how much he was able to actually get in his mouth there. Has he got a proper Prosecco shower? I do believe that some of the Dynamo Intact team are actually flying out to Kuala Lumpur this evening. I wonder if they might be cancelling some or modifying some of their travel plans to KL in the next few hours.
If you're on the same flight as them, you might want to change yours because it's going to be quite a rapid flight over to Kuala Lumpur. What a day for Senna Agius, what a weekend it's been. He looked like the class of the field on Friday. Even if Diogo Moreira was the fastest rider, the race for them looked like it was Senna Agius' Grand Prix. That was how it proved. Agius, the winning margin doesn't really do him justice, but it was 3.6 seconds over David Alonso, who won that monumental battle for Q2. Diogo Moreira, a valuable third. Danny Holgado could well have been on the podium himself had he not gone hot and nearly wiped out Moreira a few laps from home. Dixon fifth from Baltas and Manu Gonzalez, passed around the outside by Baltas on the final lap. Arenas 8th, Canet 9th, and loses more title points. Sasaki faded badly to 10th. Huertas 11th for Bayer, Roberts Binder, and Alonso Lopez takes 1 point. Marcos Ramirez, the sole retirement in the Australian Grand Prix today. He pulled into the pits midway through. How close do you like it? 3 races to go, 2 points in it. Manu Gonzalez clings on to the World Championship lead, but for how much longer? Aaron Canet, well, he might well drop out of title contention along with Barry Baltas and Jake Dixon. Next time out in Malaysia, there's 75 points now left on the table. Senna Agius does climb a place to 8th in the World Championship. So Lopez, he loses further ground down to 16th place. Marcos Ramirez, another rider falling down the championship order today as the American Racing teammates swap places. Joe Roberts moved up to 13th place. Yumi Sasaki, who did take a top 10 finish from a career best qualifying, that lifted him up ahead of Alex, of course, the Constructors' Champions. They took another victory today. Boscoscuro best was Jake Dixon, who took a hard-fought 5th place. Team standings, it's still advantage Fantic after they took 6th and 9th today. Only down about Intact GP do close the gap though after Agius and 50 today. 37 points between the top 2. Look at the start. Let's try and pick out what happened to Barry Baltas at the start. He's just over to the right-hand side of your screen in around about 10th or 11th place from now. He goes into the first corner. He's got a blue crew Pramag Boscoscuro on the inside of him. And Baltas there drops off the outside of turn 1. That was where he lost all of those places. We had a 3-way battle at the front for the opening lap. Agius did briefly lose the lead as he went wide into Doohan corner. Moreira seizing the advantage. On the corner though, Senna Agius regaining the advantage, and Moreira lost 2 places to both Intact teammates. Gonzalez getting his elbows out early on. And Alonso, who started from the second row of the grid, and he fancied a return to the podium as he sees 2nd place. 4 laps, it was a straight head-to-head between the top 2 in the World Championship as they traded 3rd place, Moreira and Gonzalez. to the Grand Prix win. Gonzalez began to drop back down the order. Alonso passing Moreira at the same time took Gonzalez, with Manu fading in the edge back to P7 as Holgado piled through. At the final lap, Barry Baltas passed it for 6th place. The battle of a second went all the way down to the wire, but none of them could even see Senna Aegis, who took victory by 3.6 seconds. In truth, his winning margin should have been around double that. A monumental and memorable home victory for Senna Aegis. The Aussie wins the Australian Grand Prix in Moto2. What chance of more Aussie success in MotoGP? We'll begin our build-up next.
It's Penguin Parade and dramatic landscapes. Phillip Island sits close to the seaside towns of Cowes and San Remo. First stage Australian Grand Prix in 1989. Revered for its high-speed layout and scene of some of the fiercest and close battles in history. Phillip Island's fearsome layout is not for the faint-hearted. Round 19 is next live. It's time to race in MotoGP. 4.45 kilometres, 2.764 miles make up this absolutely jaw-dropping Phillip Island circuit. First built back in 1956. 12 corners, 5 of them right, 7 of them left. MotoGP bikes powering down the Gardner Straight, 900 metres in length at over 350 kilometres an hour. Into the Thuan corner, the left-hander through the Southern Loop, the Stoner corner, the power sliding turn 3. Good overtaking, hot spot down the hill into turn 10 as you start that final sector. And then, of course, it's all about time management through that high speed turn 12. Turns 11, 10 and 12, that's where the Michelin tyres really do get a workout. Overtaking hot spots, one of them into the Miller corner, turn 4. This was Marc Marquez versus Jorge Martin, our last two MotoGP World Champions together last year. Glorious sunshine yesterday here at Phillip Island. Secchi starting from the front row of the grid on the factory of Prix. Fabio Quartararo from pole, dropped out of early contention down to 5th place. It left 2 Aprilias at the front. This was a scary moment as early leader Ralph Fernandez just about evaded trouble from Bez behind him. Just after the halfway point though, it was Marco Bezzecchi that seized the advantage. Aprilia, their first ever sprint 1-2 over 13 laps yesterday. Bez leading home Ralph Fernandez for the first time in 58 sprints as Pedro Acosta completes the podium. No Ducati featuring in our post-sprint medal ceremony. More troubles, more woes, more frustration. The world champion Pecco Bagnaia as he took the checker flag 30 seconds back in yesterday's sprint. Of course, some of our superstars missing sadly here this weekend in Australia. No world champion Marc Marquez after his collision with Marco Bezzecchi in Mandalika 2 weeks ago. But the result of that means in this upcoming 27-lap Grand Prix of Australia, Marco Bezzecchi, who is a massive pre-race favourite after his sprint domination yesterday, 3.1 seconds clear of Fernandez, he will serve a double long lap. Something to keep a close eye on, a key couple of moments for Bez in this 27-lap battle. Round 19 about to get underway then in MotoGP. Other high-profile absentees, former world champion Jorge Martin and Maverick Vinales, also sidelined through injury. We'll see none of those trio sadly next time out in Asia. But as the waves break on the beautiful sandy beaches of the Bass Strait, what a location, what a setting this is. Always spectacular scenery and spectacular action in Phillip Island. And this one should deliver something truly special once again. In particular, with Bezzecchi looking to pull off his own Aussie miracle he looks to become just the second rider in MotoGP history to win a Grand Prix with 2 long laps. Jack Miller, the home hero, who starts from the front row of the grid, did so at the French Grand Prix in Le Mans back in 2021. That was a flag-to-flag encounter, though. And Bezzecchi be the first rider to come back from 2 long laps in a dry Grand Prix and take the spoils. We're assuming it's going to be dry. We believe it will be, despite the fact that race day 19 here today in Australia has been dominated by very blustery and windy conditions. That's why actually we'll be lights out about an hour later than our normal schedule. The organiser just moving the entire race programme back 60 minutes to make sure that we avoided the worst of some pretty powerful gusts this morning. No dramas. And some entertaining battles already in Moto3 and Moto2. Up next, though, is MotoGP. Lewis going to be in the commentary box. Jack Appleyard down in pit lane. As with a very sprightly sprint, it's our sprint winner, Bezzecchi, who comes to the back of the factory for the garage. Never has Bez taken a double win in MotoGP. And through the hard way with a double long lap incoming. To say, Lewis, when we spoke to a whole number of his rivals yesterday, the early seagull drama, a whole bunch of riders picking their way through a flock of seagulls. This is about the most dramatic moment of Marco Bezzecchi's sprint. Happened before it had even started. You can see that coming behind him was Fabio Quartararo. It's after the seagull drama to be untroubled in the sprint.
It's the only real drama for him. You feel, though, he's going to make a better start than he did yesterday.
From the Italian, if practice makes perfect, well, he will still be a big figure, big part to play in this battle. This is the reason why he has the 2 long laps, and this, unfortunately, is an incident, a collision, which threatens Marc Marquez's participation in the remainder of a 2025 World Championship campaign, which, up to this very point, had been superb. Comeback fully loaded, comeback completed, one of the best we've ever seen in history. Just 7 days prior to that scary crash at turn 7 on lap 1 in Mandalika. Unfortunately, Marc Marquez, he knew straight away there was damage to his right shoulder, a fracture in the right shoulder blade. Marc did wait a full week to try and see if that injury and some damaged ligaments would recover naturally. Unfortunately, after that 7-day checkup with his medical team in Madrid, it was obvious that a surgical intervention was going to be required. Some specialists, some experts calculating that Marc's recovery period for the injury could be 16 weeks, 4 months, which unfortunately, of course, would rule him out of the remainder of the 2025 campaign. He has not, we have to say, ruled himself out. Ducati have not said that Marc will not be back on the GP25 at any stage this season. It looks likely Valencia will be the earliest he can return. Few people saying, well, he might just come back for the post-race test session. But of course, we send our wishes, our best wishes for speedy recoveries to Marc, to Jorge Martin and to Maverick Vinales. Of course, let's not forget, they were our front row qualifiers, our top 3 on the grid in our 2024 running of the Australian Grand Prix.
Which leaves only this man, Alex Rins, and Johan Zarco back in 2022 and 2023 respectively, the only 2 riders on the grid this afternoon who have won the Australian Grand Prix before on a MotoGP bike. Because Alex Rins has won here in all 3 classes of racing. He's competed here in Moto3, Moto2 and MotoGP. It would be overrating it slightly to say that anybody could win this Australian Grand Prix, but surely there are at least half a dozen possible contenders to win this race, considering Bez's handicap.
Best sprint yesterday for Jack Miller since the Japanese Grand Prix in 2023. Certainly his best sprint on the Prima Pramac Yamaha. And well, he's already thrilled his home fans here this weekend. Led the way in FP1 on Friday, and then having out of a real tricky Q1 session behind Phillip. This Phillip Island circuit, one of the most punishing on tyre. It's particularly the rear tyre on the entire calendar. Mixing Motorsport manager Piero Talamasso saying it's the toughest they have to contend with. So there's going to be no gung-ho attacks on a soft rear tyre in this 27-lap race.
How on earth must this man feel walking into a Ducati box, walking into relative darkness? It's been a dark weekend for Pecco so far. Finished second last in the sprint yesterday with only his test rider teammate, Michele Pirro, behind him. Grid position is not actually correct, what you can see on screen there. He qualified in 11th place. He does take a 3-place grid penalty, which drops him to 14th on the grid, as if he needed any further bad news. If you watched him in warm-up this morning, he had all manner of instability on his Ducati.
Cannot wait to see the back end of this 2025 season, can he, Pecco Bagnaia? And that's the reason why they're impeding his great friend Bezzecchi at the end of that qualifying session. Busted then with a 3-place grid penalty, as if he hasn't got enough issues to deal with, the 28-year-old Italian who, I mean, where does it, you have to pose the question, where on earth does he go from here? I mean, talk about the highs and lows of the Grand Prix motorcycle race. From the start of our Asia Pacific swing, which feels like an awful long time ago now, doesn't it, as far as Bagnaia is concerned, he was absolutely superb over in Japan, disappeared without trace last time out in Mandalika, and he has sunk once again so far here in Phillip Island. Not too many crumbs of company we can offer him either, Lewis, at the moment. It's been an absolute shocker.
Hasn't scored a single point since, which means that Alex Marquez could crown himself World Championship runner-up today. That's the mathematics. That's what he has to do today. Whether Alex Marquez is reading this for the first time, the same as us, but if he outscores Pecco Bagnaia by 20 points and Marco Bezzecchi by 12, then Alex Marquez will secure second in the championship today. If he doesn't today, surely he will very shortly. 20 points gain over Bagnaia means that he needs a minimum of second place, of course.
Well, there have been so many questions circling around the paddock and circling around the whole MotoGP fan base, really, about what is going on right now with Pecco Bagnaia. Well, there's one man in the know. What on earth is going on, Jack? It's with Davide Tardozzi, the boss.
Yeah, very, very tough weekend for the factory Ducati squad. It's not often that we see both of the bikes at the bottom of a race. And warm up this morning, it seemed to get yet worse, Davide. Have you got an explanation of what's been happening this weekend?
I have an explanation, otherwise we have found the problem and solved it. But yeah, we tried something, very, very tough this morning that doesn't work, and now we are back in a different setup. But yeah, this morning we make some, I want to say, funny setup to try to understand. But then we are back in quite normal situation, and we'll see how it works.
How is Pecco mentally dealing with everything that's been going on of late? From the highs of Japan to being dead last. Last time out, 30 seconds behind, 32 seconds behind yesterday for a world champion. Mentally, it must be so difficult to cope.
It's devastated inside, but we are trying hardly to try to understand, because as you said, coming from the domination of Japan to being the last the following week with the same bike, for us is something hard to understand. But obviously we trust Pecco, and we are trying to prove his problem. Now this shaking on the front is something that not being understood from our engineers, and we'll see today, and then we will have another tough weekend next week, but we are hardly trying to help.
That's the thing, with the races coming so fast every weekend, there's no break for Pecco. How critical is his situation right now?
I think that mentally is very hard. It's a tough year, so we are trying to manage it on his side in the best way, but it's not really easy to do it. But in the end, again, we trust Pecco. We know his potential in Japan, and coming from first to last is something that never happened. We have to find out something.
Thanks, Davide.
Yeah, it's certainly not easy. It seems like everybody kind of a bit bemused, a bit perplexed about Pecco's current issues. I've never seen anything like it in my long Grand Prix career, where a rider goes from the top step of the podium to the back of the pack and just nowhere. I mean, it's not just that Pecco was last in Mandalika at the wrong end of the sprint yesterday. It's the massive gulf in time. He's just nowhere. I mean, just time yesterday, but he was doing 32s, and the pace was 27s, 28s. It was just abysmal.
Pole position in Moto2 yesterday was in the 129s, and Pecco Bagnaglia's best lap of the sprint was at 29.2. So that gives you an idea. But just how much he was struggling, and it was hard to watch when he came into the Ducati box yesterday, and it was hard to watch him in the warm-up this morning. Clearly, that rather extreme and sort of experimental setting, should we call it, did not work, because he looked like he was riding on gravel when he was coming out of the final corner. The Ducati shaking from side to side, and he came into the pits early in the session. Raul Fernandez, though, well, if the sprint yesterday is any kind of form guide, is Raul in the pound seats to take advantage of Marco Bezzecchi's double long lap penalty? Because the Aprilia seems to be the pick of the bunch this weekend.
Certainly does. Bezzecchi led home Raul Fernandez in an Aprilia 1-2 on Friday. Led home an Aprilia 1-2 with Bez yesterday in the sprint. Looks like he might well have the potential for a first Sunday Grand Prix podium. This was the start yesterday, immediately around the outside of Quartararo. Alex Marquez, of course, got the whole shot on the Gresini racing Ducati. Alex, though, was to run a little bit wide as the field attacked the Southern Loop turn 2. And just watch this, seizing his opportunity there as Marquez does run offline on the 73 Ducati. You know what, he's got a big smile on his face, because that saw Raul Fernandez sweep into a sprint lead, which he made Marco Bezzecchi work hard to take it away from him. To be fair, this was the key moment. Bezzecchi just setting that move up beautifully. Just made sure he got the corner speed and his braking marker nailed on going through the Doohan corner. That flip-flop the change direction into the Southern Loop. That was the key move as far as Bez was concerned. But that's a best ever MotoGP finish for Raul Fernandez. Second in the sprint, yeah, Vamos and a big fist bump. No wonder he looks pretty cool and calm. Because surely he knows that this, given Aprilia's clear advantage and clear speed around some of the fast section of Phillip Island and just his potential all weekend so far, this is a great opportunity, his best opportunity, you feel, to snatch that first Sunday Grand Prix top 3.
Well, normally when we come to Phillip Island, we're looking skywards to work out what the weather's going to do. We were hoping for dry conditions and for the wind to die down a little bit before lights out. What's the current situation, Jack?
Yeah, the good news is the wind has definitely died down compared to when these bikes were last out in morning warm-up earlier this morning. It's significantly lower. There is, however, slight concern about the rain. There is a little pocket of weather just to the south of us at the moment. I just went to speak to Lucio Cecchinello, and this will be interesting for the LCR squad because they are preparing the second bike for wet conditions just in case. So crucially, not only are they preparing for a flag-to-flag scenario, but if there are any problems on the sighting lap, on the warm-up lap, and for both Shohan Zarco and Somkiat Chantra, that second bike is ready for the wet. So it's something to keep an eye on. Obviously, I'll be looking skywards as ever, and if we get any raindrops, I'll let you guys know.
Well, that would really be a turn-up for the Bucks, wouldn't it, here in Australia? The last forecast that I looked at, it was suggesting rain late into the evening here on Sunday night in Australia. We just saw there Brad Binder copping a penalty, a 3-place grid penalty after balking Shohan Zarco at the end of a Q1 session, which actually could have broken some home hearts because it looked like